Mm-hmm.
Thing to remember is that there are places on that even a
All right, I think everybody's like slowly trickling back in. Let me just see if we got everybody on. All right, looks like everybody is back. So I hope that you guys all had a great time discussing the discussion question around fasting. Marcus and I were kind of discussing as well, but we would love to hear from you. Were there any really interesting fasts out there that anybody shared? Any interesting experiences? Don't forget to unmute.
So it was so encouraging to hear Dee Dee's story of how fasting helped her as far as like personal empowerment and finding her own capacity to do things even when she's not in a fed state. And that was really, really encouraging.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Alex. Anybody else want to share a fun one?
Yes, good morning.
Go for it, Sarah.
So I was reflecting, I fasted a few different ways, and was realizing that all of my fasting has always been faith-driven or faith-based fasting. So I was like, oh, this will be a new and interesting way, like, to think about fasting also in terms of health. And yeah, so it just was something I was like, oh, that's a new way to frame and think of fasting as well. The physical health component as well as the faith component.
Absolutely. We're going to get a lot of the health component this morning. So hopefully that might be new for some people. Yeah, definitely. And maybe one more person want to share? Thank you for sharing, Sarah. Coach, did you have something?
Yeah, that was my experience. The opposite. My fasting for me has been more a part of my health journey. But the people that were in my group, it was a spiritual journey, and it was just a different introspective look at how this, how fasting came about. I mean, I was aware that, we have been fasting for the Lord forever. So, but my perspective was definitely from the health perspective, and theirs was for fasting for Lord. And then we talked about abstinence and fasting from different things. So it was definitely an interesting discussion.
Awesome. Awesome discussion. Sounds great. We would have loved to have you guys discuss a little bit more, but we definitely want to hear from our key speaker. So thank you guys so much for participating in that. And yeah, we'll hope to continue having more conversations around fasting here soon, but let's continue on. So I would like to present our speaker today. This is my husband, Marcus Carr, and I will let him speak.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I just want to thank again everybody for coming on, spending the time, and just being present here, learning about fasting. This could be maybe, kind of a weird subject for some people. So yeah, I appreciate the time. I want to thank my beautiful wife for pretty much putting all of this on. She did a lot of the background, everything, I should say. I'm pretty much not taking credit for anything except for just getting out here and vomiting a bunch of information about fasting and about myself, of course, and my experience. So that's all I'm taking credit for. So anyhow, yeah, just want to give a big thanks to my wife, Kat. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm Marcus Carr, as you see. These photos pretty much show my life. This explains my life right here. Chiropractic. I am a student at Life West here in the Bay Area, and I am married to this gorgeous woman, and that is essentially my life right there. Chiropractic and this lovely woman here. So I am involved in the worship team in a local church, and I play drums and percussion. My wife as well plays drums, so we love to worship together. We have a wonderful worship team, wonderful church. We really enjoy it. Um, but yeah, as far as my story and sort of why I'm here and why I'm doing all this, it really stems from looking back. It stems from my father. When I was 5 years old, he actually passed away, and I was the one who discovered him actually face down in the bedroom on his bed. And at 5 years old, I had no idea what was happening. I had no idea really what even death was, the concept. So growing up was kind of rough. There was a lot of emotional stuff and just not being able to express myself properly, and kind of a rough upbringing. Of course, not the worst, but um, mama did what she could, just being a single parent. So two other children. I have a twin and an older sister as well. So, but fast forward, some years, and I just started getting into health and wellness, and I really don't know why. I just, started seeing things like my aunt and my grandma, both of them reversed cancer through just eating a plant-based diet. So all they did was change their diet, and they actually reversed cancer. So seeing things like that was pretty amazing, and really sparked my interest to get into this health and wellness field. And yeah, so I was just all things health and wellness. I actually started a cleaning business, so I was cleaning houses and cleaning office buildings, and all I would do essentially was just listen to podcasts and YouTube videos and all things health and wellness. And while I would work. So eventually I came across a documentary, and on that documentary was an old cowboy named Don Tolman. And this guy absolutely sparked my interest. And I was like, who is this guy with a cowboy hat looking, just looking so um just so different from all the rest of the guests that were on this documentary. So I was interested, and he was mentioning fasting and stuff like that. So I just looked this guy up, started listening to a podcast on Don Tolman. They called him the Whole Food Medicine Cowboy. And he was just he was talking so passionately about fasting, and I just like could not stop listening. So I just soaked up all the information that I could. He was explaining his story with fasting. He actually has done 40-day fast, possibly five, and water only 40-day fasts. And I was just amazed at what I was hearing. I couldn't believe that anybody would even do that in the first place, and why they would do that. But his story was so like compelling, and I just knew there was something there, and I knew like I had to do this. Like I didn't know what this is about. He's explaining his experience not only with the health, but he was really talking about this like spiritual aspect. He was talking about like having visions and things like that. And I think there was a question. Perfect. Yep, got it. Yeah, so Don Tolman, yeah, the whole food medicine cowboy. Amazing, amazing individual. Anyhow, so he's sharing his story on fasting, the visions that he's having and stuff like that. And I just was so like compelled by this. I started fasting, may not have done it the proper way. And I know that now, knowing and going through the experience of fasting. But my first fast was a 7-day water fast, and I didn't prep for it, didn't know really what I was doing. I just heard about fasting. I'm gonna do it. Let's go. And not the best idea. I do not recommend that for anybody, which is part of why I'm so passionate here teaching about fasting, so we can all experience fasting in a healthy way, in a proper way, in the most effective way to do this stuff. So 7-day water fast, obviously I didn't die. Went through it, maybe didn't get the most out of it, but it was amazing. And I felt like, wow, I just went 7 days on water only. Like, what else could I do? I felt so empowered by doing that, putting away something that is so innate in the human experience, to eat food. Like we live around food. A lot of people do. So to put that aside and just drink water, like I felt really empowered by that. And so eventually I kept going with little 3-day fast, little 7-day fast. Eventually I did a 15-day juice fast. And that was pretty significant as far as experiencing sort of the ups and downs that come along with fasting. Um, Such good health benefits, of course. We'll get into that later. I just really want to stress that my experience with fasting has been a lot of emotional and spiritual stuff. And on that 15-day juice fast, that was the first time I experienced a what they call retracing. And essentially what that means is that when you're on a health journey and you're doing all the things to get healthy, whatever it might be, chiropractic, fasting, eating differently, changing your habits and stuff like that, you start to do this thing called retracing. And it's almost like you're going back through some of the old traumas, physical, emotional traumas that we've built up in our lives. So I noticed old things were coming up, old feelings and emotions were coming up. And I was like, where is this coming from? And why do I feel this way? And that was my first experience of that emotional sort of clearing that was happening with the fasting. And yeah, so that was a profound like step and level up in the fasting game. Um, yeah, so again, eventually just doing this little fast here and there. And finally, 2020 came around, COVID, big shutdown here in California, especially. And my aunt, who actually reversed endometrial cancer, she moved out to Idaho. I thought this was a perfect opportunity. Everything shut down here. I'm still, working to become a student at chiropractic school. I had a bunch of things to do, prerequisites and whatnot, and everything shut down. And I wasn't really able to continue that journey. So I moved with her out to Idaho, was able to continue that journey, taking all the classes that I need to. Out in Idaho, there wasn't much of a shutdown compared to California, which was amazing. And but it was a perfect opportunity because it was just sort of like we moved out to the middle of nowhere in Idaho, about 30 minutes away from Canada. And it was a perfect opportunity because I didn't have any obligations, didn't have to work. We bought the house and we were just growing food and kind of setting up this self-sustainable living situation out there. And it was just a perfect opportunity. So for me to actually fast, I wanted to do that extended fast. I wanted to reach that 40-day, Don Tolman Jesus type of fast, and that was the time to do it. And it just happened so perfectly. So I eventually did um, what I did actually was 55 days juice and then 10 days water. So it was a total of 65 days, which probably sounds pretty nuts to most of you. And especially if you know me, like I'm not a big guy, there's not a whole lot here. So to be able to go 65 days with no food, just juice and just water, like it just goes to show that what we think is truth may not be so true. We can go without food, and I think sometimes it's actually necessary and the best thing to do. So that's sort of my experience with the fasting. During that 65-day journey was pretty amazing. Again, there's ups and downs. There's the healing crisis, which we'll get into that later. Essentially, yeah, there's just the ups and downs with the fasting thing. So 65 days, but most I think profound thing that came out of that was that I did actually come to Christ, like literally. And I had this come to Christ moment, and that's when I just gave up my life and said, look, I'm Christian here. This is me. I'm gonna follow Christ, and I'm gonna do all things that I possibly can to emulate, Jesus Christ. So, and it, for whatever reason, it took me going through that journey of fasting to realize, like, I just need to put all resistance away and I just need to follow Christ. And that was my calling. It may not be the calling for everybody, and that's okay. But for me, that was I was being called to come to Christ and lay down my life, lay all the burdens down, and truly follow Christ. So that's a bit of my story with the fasting. Yeah, so really, I want to get into fasting and how the spiritual aspect, but I also want to get into the health benefits as well. So we can kind of get into that now. So with fasting, most spiritual practices around the world incorporate some type of fasting. Obviously, with me, it's centered around Christianity and how we incorporate fasting with that. But it is, if you look at most cultures around the world, spiritual practices and groups and stuff like that, they're going to be incorporating fasting somehow. Probably the most extreme example of that would be something called Jainism, which I think is similar to Hinduism. And they have a practice where the people who are sort of like on their way out, pretty much ready to die, they actually fast till death. And it's usually for the people, again, like they're kind of on their way out anyway, so they have like maybe a couple weeks left in their life anyway. But they find it so honorable. The most honorable way to go out is through fasting. You lay down all food and water, and they go out that way. Obviously, it's a very extreme example, and I don't like recommend anybody do that. But I just wanted to give that example because they hold that in such high esteem, fasting, right? Like, why is that? It's such a strange concept, I think, for the modern world. Yeah, so I think with Christianity, Catholicism, things like that, there's always those little 3-day fasts and things like that. I think the Catholics were doing like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday type of thing, and they would fast for those days. So it's all around the world. These things are absolutely like incorporated in most spiritual practices. As we know, as you may know, Jesus fasted for 40 days. And it's funny because that's one of the first things he did. So he got baptized and he went out into the wilderness and fasted for 40 days. Like, why is that? Like, what is it about this fasting thing? John, Moses, Elijah, Jonah, there's all these characters in the Bible that are going out and fasting. It's just interesting. He talks about that in Matthew, right? How he's going out there being tempted in the wilderness, fasting for 40 days and 40 nights. Incredible stuff. Very interesting. I think I honestly think that if we want to live that empowered life, we need to follow Christ and do the things that Christ was doing. I don't think he was just doing these things for no reason. We are called to do the things that Christ did. And he said it himself. You're going to do the things that I do and more. So today, modern fasting, we typically will fast from social media, fast from TV, maybe even fast from an old ex-girlfriend, right? That's sort of a modern day fasting that we have today, which is all great. I love that. I think it's very helpful. Good things to do, of course. And I think there's a little bit more to fasting. What is fasting? The definition, literally, to abstain from all kinds of food and drink, especially in religious observance. Okay. So a true fast really is putting away food and drink. There's different types of fast, which we'll get into that in just a sec. But I just wanted to give the literal definition, Oxford definition of a fast, right? I always say that I love etymology. I love the origins of words. And if you look at the origin of the word itself, to fast, it means to hold strong. When you're holding fast, you're holding strong. That was the translation pretty much. So to hold fast is actually to hold strong. And it says that quite a bit in the Bible, actually, to hold fast, to hold strong. And if you look at the word fast, like fastening a bolt, you're strengthening that bolt. So there's something with that word. and strengthening yourself. I think we had one example of somebody talking about how it sort of empowered them and they felt stronger. They felt stronger after fasting. And that was definitely my experience as well. I felt as if I had I put away something so innate and I was able to fast. Like that was an incredible empowerment for me. And just the other day, I had someone give their sort of testimony on fasting, and they actually got rid of addiction. They got rid of smoking actually. So they stopped smoking after like a 7-day master cleanse or 7-day water fast. And it's amazing. I hear this stuff all the time too. And yeah, so it's just an interesting thing there. Yeah, so what is fasting? Again, we have water only, which would be probably the most, probably the best way to fast, and the most, that would be the best way to fast is the water only. But essentially, the way I learned this would be fast, faster, and fastest. This is a concept of working your way up to a water only fast, which is, I think, the best way to do it. And this is the way I recommend it. And so essentially, what is fast? The fast path to healing, to spiritual enlightenment, if you will, would be essentially fruits only or a plant-based diet, basically. So, and it's essentially, it's a form of fasting because you're taking away a lot of processed foods, a lot of foods that are heavy on the digestive system, and it is just a very light form of fasting. Okay, so I recommend starting off with like a fruit only type of thing, or just like a light fruit and vegetable type of diet, and that would be one way of fasting. The faster way of healing or getting into that state of spiritual enlightenment, if you will, would be that juicing those fruits, juicing those vegetables. So that would be sort of the next stage up. And then we have the fastest way to heal, which is water only. And we'll get into some of that, some of the benefits and why it is just such a good way to heal. So with men, 40 days is sort of the longest that we want to fast. For women, it's about 28. And yeah, so I don't recommend men and women going anything beyond 40, 28 days. Essentially, anything beyond that, you start to get into an actual true starvation state, which is not good. Start to use proteins from mussels and stuff like that. So not the best thing to do. Another way of fasting would be intermittent fasting. And essentially what this is like you basically reduce your eating window. So if you were to stop eating at, say, 8 p.m. The night before, then maybe you can break fast the next day around 10, 11, 12, whatever it might be. There's an expansive amount of research going into intermittent fasting and fasting in general about how it's increasing longevity and a whole bunch of other stuff that we'll get into a little bit later as well. So how long to fast? I think it really depends on what you're going for, what you're trying to accomplish, what your ultimate goal is. So, you heard my story, 65 days total. There's the 3-day thing. I did a 7-day thing. There's the 10-day thing, 21 days. Essentially, there's 3-day is like a quick reset for the body, would be a 3-day. And there's research that says that it enhances the immune system. 7 days, great, of course. 10-day is like a full hormonal or endocrine reset, which is, I think, good specifically for women as well. And yes, it is good for women. I know that's sort of a myth out there that women can't fast. This is just for men, but essentially everybody can fast, really. So, and yeah, so we'll move on. So who should fast? Like I was saying, essentially everybody can benefit from a fast. And if you think about it, we all do fast. It's called sleeping. When we're sleeping, we are fasting, right? There's no food, there's no drink. So that is the time that we actually fast. So we do this every single day. And I think if you think about it, when we are sleeping, fasting, right, that is our time to restore and repair. That's when the body's in restoring and repairing mode, right? And you think about somebody who is sick, has the flu or whatever, they need to rest more, or essentially they want to rest more. And it makes sense. It's an innate thing with the body that it's telling us to rest so we can actually repair and heal the body. So for me, whenever I start to feel a little bit sick, I know right away I need to do a fast. So I'll go water only, juice only for about 3 days, and do some other protocols, just kind of flush out my system. And usually within 3 days, I'm perfectly good to go, back on it, and just, life as usual. So, like I was saying, there is research out there that says 3 days or 72 hours of a fast enhances the immune system or resets the immune system, right? And it's able to fight off the viruses and bacteria, whatever it might be. It actually enhances your body to do that better. So it increases your performance to heal, literally. So, and that's just 72 hours right there. So, again, women, yes, you can fast. There's Mindy Pels is an incredible expert on fasting. I love her information. She's very specific with fasting and women, right? So she gets all into all the hormones and everything and when to fast and stuff like that. But essentially, women can and should fast, I believe. And this is based on my experience. I've been coaching people for almost 3 years now, like how to fast basically in the proper way, in the most efficient way to fast. And I've worked with women, I've worked with men, I've worked with children as well. And yeah, so I obviously don't recommend fasting for children as far as like water only. Probably not the best thing to do, but you certainly can incorporate some type of fast, whether that's, like I said earlier, the fast, the faster, or the fastest way to do it. So you kind of think about juicing would be perfectly fine for children if it calls for it, right? And we'll get into that, I think, a little bit later as well, sort of why you want to fast or when to fast, things like that. So, but essentially, busting the myths, like women can fast, pregnant women can fast too. I know um, it sounds crazy, but it's true. And I think some pregnant women need to fast. And again, I'm not saying water only fasting, I'm talking about juicing, I'm talking about fruit only, these types of, or these forms of fasting. Intermittent fasting would be excellent for pregnant women. So essentially, the people who need to fast are the ones who are maybe in that chronic state of disease, or who going back to the sleeping thing, when you wake up and you feel groggy, you feel like it takes you an hour or two just to get out of bed and actually wake up, you need the coffee to get you stimulated to move out, those people are the ones who need to fast as well. It would be the best thing to do would be like intermittent fasting in those cases. So when you wake up, you're in a state of healing, you're in a state of repair, you're in a state of fasting, of course. And if you keep that fasting state up, your body will continue to detox. And you think about waking up, you got all the crusty things in your eyes, stuff coming out of your nose. It's a detox phase where, defecating, urinating, and stuff like that. That is the detox phase, especially in the morning when we wake up. So to continue that detox phase could be very beneficial for people. Again, children, pregnant women, don't recommend the water only fasting. There's ways to do it. The most effective, most proper way to do things. So like I said, we'll get into that a little bit more. Keep going with the slideshow. Thank you. When to fast, essentially, kind of like I was saying, if for me, when I start to feel a little bit of that sickness coming on, the flu or whatever it might be, I know right away, boom, 3 days fast, 72 hours, I'm going to fast, flush out my system, and I'm good to go. So that would be a perfect opportunity. So when you start to feel that sickness coming on, just lay down the food, drink water, drink juice for about 72 hours, assisting the detox phase. And usually within 72 hours, you're good to go, off and going, perfectly fine. Today, it's kind of a thing like, yeah, people are getting into fasting because they want to lose weight. Yes, you will lose weight. I don't recommend fasting just for weight loss, because essentially what happens is these people fast, they lose the weight, hooray, everything is good. And as soon as they start eating, the weight just comes right back on. So I don't recommend fasting just for weight loss. Yes, it's an amazing thing. If you guys have heard my wife Kat's story, she lost 90 pounds with intermittent fasting and different forms of fasting. Coach who's on the call right now, he's got an incredible story himself. He fasted and lost like 100 pounds almost, like incredible stuff. Yes, you can lose weight, but you got to be careful. We're not trying to promote any type of eating disorder, which sometimes may happen if we don't understand how to properly fast. But really, if you wanted to do it for weight loss, yes, you can, but we need to understand that there's weight management, but there's also health management. We want to be able to go through the fast, lose the weight, but also incorporate fasting and incorporate these healthy principles to maintain that weight. So I think that's critical when it comes to that. Like I said, when you're feeling a little sick, 72 hours proven to reset the immune system, increasing your ability to heal. So when I got into this fasting thing, my mentors, Don Tolman and his son, Tyler Tolman, were like the fasting experts. And I learned most of what I know now through them. I am a coach now, teaching health and wellness, teaching fasting under my mentor, Tyler Tolman. So, and his thing was like reversing chronic disease. Again, might sound nuts to some people, but the three basically killers globally as far as chronic disease, heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. These are the big three, they call it. So, and through what I've seen with other coaches in the space that I'm in, with my mentors, thousands of people reversing some of the most severe chronic diseases that are out there. I'm talking stage 4 cancer. I'm talking about heart disease. Some of the first couple people that I coached, they reversed heart disease. They reversed type 2 diabetes within like 30 days. 30 days of changing the diet, changing the lifestyle, making a few changes here and there, and fasting. I think it took 14 days of a juice fast, and I had one person completely reverse heart disease, high blood pressure, things like that, and type 2 diabetes. So the thing is that the fast literally is a fast way to heal. So kind of playing off that word again there. So that's when to fast. So here are some of the stats with the chronic disease. Heart disease right now, global killer. Cancer, I think, is like 1 in 4. Globally, it's 1 in 4 people will develop cancer. That's what the stats are today. So heart disease, like I said, #1 killer for the last 3 decades. Diabetes, 1 in 10 people, and these are global stats right here. So as we see, there's pretty big issue here going on with the health of the health status of every person on this planet. So that's sort of when to fast, and a little bit of why to fast as well. So continuing on, where to fast. We have this beautiful photo of a cabin out in the middle of nowhere. Ideally, this would be where you want to fast, right? Out, away from everything, away from everybody, just to almost seclude yourself and to be away from all the things, all the stimuli. Um, Obviously, people cooking food. It's funny how this works. When you decide to fast, especially on an extended fast, this is when all the feasts start to happen. This is when people start to invite you out to go eat, and these are the potlucks and stuff like that. It's funny how that works every single time, and it's like so true. Jesus goes out and fasts, and he's tempted, by the devil, and it's almost like, as soon as you start to fast, there it is. The devil's coming at you, trying to tempt you with all these potlucks and all these things going on. And yeah, so it's just how it works. So I'm sure there's married people out here, couples. I'm sure there's children, people who have children here. Now, the best way to fast is to actually separate yourself from that normal hustle of life. That would be the best way to do it. And again, that would be the most proper and the most effective way to do it. So however you got to do it, make it happen. Get yourself out of the environment that either caused the sickness in the first place, or maybe just causing causing to, I guess, in a spiritual aspect, almost disconnect you from God, which I think is just a wonderful reason to fast, obviously religiously. So, yeah, as we said, Jesus comes out or goes out into the wilderness and fasts for 40 days. There's many, many other characters in the Bible that are fasting, and they're out there in the wilderness and things like that. So that's, again, ideally where to fast. Yeah, what else we got? Why to fast? We kind of got into this a little bit more, a little bit earlier. So essentially, the science is coming out and telling us that fasting is actually increasing longevity and improving our ability to heal. So, like I said earlier, when you're in a fasted state, your body is detoxing, which is a good thing. We want to get rid of the old and then bring on the new. So in the Bible, it talks about Jesus is talking, and he's asked why his disciples aren't fasting. And there's there's a few verses on that, but essentially what he's saying is like, we need to put new wine in new bottles, right? You don't sew old clothes, or you don't sew new clothes over old clothes. So really, you need to get rid of the old and then bring on the new. And that's the detox phase. That's the beautiful thing about fasting, is that it allows you to clean out the body, make space, not only for new cells to come in, stronger cells to come in, but also, if you think about it from a spiritual aspect, it is creating space for, from a Christian perspective, it's the Holy Spirit to come in to fill you up. It is, you're creating space, and you fill that with God, with the higher power. And that's the beautiful thing, again, about fasting, is that we remove all the stimuli, remove the food, all of the things that we're so innately connected to. And then all you have is sort of your connection with the higher power, with God. So that would be sort of why to fast. Like we talked about a little bit before, chronic disease, reversing chronic disease. My mentor, again, thousands of people. I've worked with, half a dozen to a dozen people already, reversing heart disease and type 2 diabetes and stuff like that. And so that's a little bit of why to fast. I think obviously there's, again, the science is coming out talking about the autophagy, which is like cellular repair, pretty much. Again, it's your body's going through the state of removing all like harmful or bad cells, basically, that are not performing well, and you're just getting rid of those and renewing all the cells with brand new, stronger cells, essentially. Stem cell regeneration. The science is coming out. They call it rejuvenescence, actually, and it's literally like, this is the fountain of youth. Like, it's almost a literal thing, and the scientists are calling it rejuvenescence. And this is the idea that your body is repairing all the cells, removing all the bad, like I said, creating space for the new ones to come in. And they're usually, if you're doing it properly, your cells are going to be stronger. You're going to be able to fight off disease stronger, be able to adapt to the stresses of life much, much better. So that's just a bit of why to fast. Again, there's so much there. I can honestly talk about there for so long. There's a cool study that came out, whole biological laboratories out in Chicago. They actually fasted a person for just 2 weeks. And he was 40 years old, chronological age, but 40 years old. They fasted this guy for 2 weeks, and they tested him. And physiologically, his organs, he was physiologically like the age of a 17-year-old. So his organs and his body was functioning at the level of a 17-year-old, right? So they're looking at the cells and how the cells actually perform. So they obviously went pretty deep, and there's a lot of science into it, but essentially they looked and they noticed that his cells were working at a much higher functioning capacity through that 2-week fast. Now, water only. Again, so that's just a case study of actually a perfect example of why we should fast. It's the fountain of youth. If you want to look younger, you want to feel younger, fasting will help accelerate that process. Of course, there's a lot of other things, changing your diet or altering your diet a little bit, getting out, walking, get the sunshine, all the basic foundational principles, of course. So that's just a bit of the why. How to fast? Well, pretty much, I think I'm going to pass this on to my wife, and she'll continue and kind of give you the how.
All right, sorry, I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself, but I figured it out. Yeah, so I mean, as far as that last part there, with the cellular repair and the case study of the man who's 40 years old, fasted for 2 weeks, and then his organs seem to have, gone back to as if he was a 17-year-old kid. I don't know about you guys, but my husband and I are definitely trying to live to at least 100, maybe 120. So yeah, I'm just gonna conclude our webinar here and just kind of wrap up the how to fast. So yeah, here's how to fast. How to fast is by coming to our Half Moon Bay Wellspring Wellness Retreat. It's actually there at the retreat. We want to invite you guys to learn the how and practically apply it. So we're going to be hosting our wellness retreat at the end of September. That's going to be Thursday to Sunday, the 26th to the 29th. And we are going to be in Half Moon Bay. So it's up here in Northern California. So mark your calendars, and here are some of the things you're going to be getting from out of the retreat. We're going to be sending out pre-fasting protocols. So we're talking about the how to fast. Marcus just covered the who, what, when, where, why around fasting. The retreat's going to give you the actual how, and you're going to apply the how and actually do a 3-day juice fast with us. So we're going to be sending out pre-fasting protocols, how to prepare for the fast, what to do with the body, because you don't go to Shakey's Pizza or you don't go to, a buffet the night before because you're going to fast, and then boom, now you're fasting the next day. So there are protocols on how to start the fast. We're going to coach you through. We're going to coach you through the fast, and then we're also going to break fast together Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon. So how to break the fast and then wean yourself back onto solid foods. So we'll send out those pre-fasting protocols. We're going to provide the optimal health environment for you to fast in. We're looking at a couple really amazing properties that are sitting right on a cliff with beautiful ocean views. So we want to just provide that epic scenery, you know, being able to take everything in, going for walks on the trails along the cliff of the Pacific there, cliff of Moss Beach, which is right in the heart of Half Moon Bay. And we're going to provide educational sessions. So this was just a little quick 1-hour webinar, but we're going to go way more in depth when it comes to fasting. We're going to take a look at a few more, you know, the Bible principles around fasting as well, because we really want to dig into the spiritual component with fasting too. We're going to incorporate various wellness routines, such as, like I said, sunshine, morning walks, morning body activation workouts. We're going to incorporate breath work. We'll have prayer. You guys will have isolated time for journaling, meditation. We'll have worship pretty much every day. We're going to have fellowship with one another every single day. We're bringing in specialists as well. So we're going to have on-site massage therapy. We have a sound healer who's going to be coming in and doing a sound healing session with us as well, because there are actually different frequencies that when we hear those frequencies for a long enough period of time, it actually does something to the physical state of the body, and your cells respond to those sounds. Honestly, like Jesus walking on water and just telling Peter, come. There's something with the frequency, even in Jesus's voice. He spoke into creation, right? He spoke and it happened. So there is healing when it comes to sound and frequency, which is Bible-based, 100% backed. And then we'll also do a few chiropractic screening as well. And then lastly, the retreat attendees will receive a beautiful one-on-one consultation with Marcus. He is a certified health and wellness coach under the Tyler Tolman brand. And you're going to receive eye photos, and he's going to do an assessment of your personal eye photos. So in the iridology and sclerology, that's the iris and the white part of your eyes, there's actual key insights into looking at the body and finding out potentially what could be going on, whether it's heart issues or liver or kidneys. There's certain areas in the eye that can actually pinpoint potential trouble points that you might need to focus on or work on. So maybe if you have a lot of kidney issues, he would assign maybe a kidney detox or a kidney cleanse for you. And then he's also going to put you on an individualized wellness plan as well. So even after the retreat, when you're gone, because you're going to get that personal individualized wellness plan, you'll be able to continue on your wellness path for healing and whatever you want to accomplish. And then there's going to be much, much, much more. So we just wanted to advertise that here today as well, and invite everybody on here, and people who didn't come to this webinar as well. You can still spread the word. So I know we are a little bit late as far as time goes. We wanted to try to keep this around an hour, but does anybody have any questions? We do want to say thank you for coming. My husband Marcus and I want to thank you guys for coming and participating with us and letting us share our heart and our passion for wellness. And are there any questions? If you need to leave, we also want to respect your time. So we would also say thank you for joining and have a wonderful Saturday. Keep an eye out for an email from us for follow-ups and just different things that we have going on as well. But yeah, if you want to stick around, we want to open this time for any questions, whether regarding the retreat or whether regarding anything that you heard from the webinar. So don't forget to unmute, and we'll stick around for that right now.
I guess speaking on a little bit more of the how to fast, that's the whole idea here, is to give people the space to fast properly and get the most out of it, and for it to be most effective as far as health benefits, but also that spiritual aspect as well. Like I said, when you just create that space, let the Holy Spirit come in, let God just fill your body, fill everything, with his presence. There's just something about that. So we want to provide that space and also make this, like I said, most effective, but safe and effective as well. I want people to understand how to properly fast, because there is a proper way to fast for it to be most effective and safe, most of all. Yes, it could be a dangerous thing to do, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So I've got, like I said, almost 10 years of experience learning, the all things health and wellness, all things fasting. So with what I've learned, been able to incorporate this into my own life. We actually wish to incorporate this into other people's lives, show them the proper way to fast, most effective, just the safest way to do things. And essentially, that's what we're going to be going over at the retreat. You'll get, step-by-step things to do before, at the retreat, and afterwards as well. So that's just a little bit more of the how and kind of why we're even doing this in the first place. So again, we've been called to do this. We honestly and genuinely just wish to help people. The mission here, the journey for us, we feel we're being called to support the body of Christ, increasing strength within the body of Christ, within the saints, right? We want to strengthen those people. We want to strengthen those people in their health and their spiritual game as well. So that's sort of a little bit more of the why and kind of our mission here as well. So yeah, I guess if there's no questions, we just say thank you. Appreciate all of you again. Thanks for coming out, spending the time here with us. You can always reach out to Kat or I via email, text, whatever it might be, social media. Reach out if you have any questions. I hope this was informative. I hope this was, I hope you learned something especially. So thank you guys so much. Much love to all of you.